Admiral Zexathara stood before the massive viewing screen in the command center of Sentinel Prime. Her 6 arms moved quickly across the control panels as alarms blared throughout the station. Something was very wrong. "Report!" she barked at her crew. Lieutenant Yethmore looked up from his station, his 3 eyes wide with confusion. "Admiral, our quantum sensors are detecting massive gravitational distortions in Sector 7, but there's nothing there." "What do you mean nothing is there?" Zexathara moved to his station, her purple skin darkening with concern. "I mean exactly that, Admiral. The distortion suggests something huge is affecting space-time itself. Something, at least 3 kilometers long. But when we scan the area, we see empty space." Zexathara had served in the Galactic Defense Network for over 200 years. She had seen wars between star systems, fought against space pirates, and witnessed the birth and death of planets. But this was different. This made no sense. "Send out a full-spectrum scan," she ordered. "Use every sensor we have." The crew worked frantically. Sentinel Prime was the most advanced monitoring station in the galaxy. It could detect a single ship from 50 light-years away. It could track cloaked vessels, analyze their weapons, and identify their home planets. But now, all their advanced technology was telling them the same impossible thing. "Admiral," called out Dr. Kethlai from the science station, "the readings are getting stronger. Whatever is out there, it's getting bigger." "Bigger? How is that possible?" "I don't know, but the gravitational effects are increasing. It's like something is slowly coming into our reality from somewhere else." Zexathara felt a chill run down her spine. In all her years of service, she had never encountered anything that could hide from their sensors completely. Even the most advanced cloaking technology left some trace, some sign that something was there. But this was perfect invisibility. "Sir," Yethmore shouted suddenly, "something is appearing." On the main screen, space itself seemed to bend and twist. Reality warped like water, and slowly, something massive began to take shape. It was dark, darker than the space around it. It seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ship was unlike anything in their databases. It was long and smooth, with no visible weapons or engines. No lights blinked on its surface, no energy readings came from it at all. It just hung in space like a hole in reality itself. "My gods," whispered Dr. Kethlai. "What is that thing?" "I don't know," Zexathara replied quietly. "But I don't like it." The crew stared at the screen in silence. The ship was beautiful in a terrifying way. It looked ancient and new at the same time. Its surface seemed to shift and change as they watched, as if it existed in more than 3 dimensions. "Can we communicate with it?" Zexathara asked. "We've tried every frequency we know," replied the communications officer. "No response. It's like it doesn't even hear us." "What about its technology? Can we analyze it?" Dr. Kethlai shook her head. "Admiral, I've never seen anything like this. The ship appears to be made of materials that don't exist in our periodic table. Its energy signature is 0, but it's clearly powered by something, and the way it affects space-time around it, it's impossible." "Nothing is impossible," Zexathara said firmly. "We just don't understand it yet." But even as she said the words, she didn't believe them. This ship challenged everything she knew about the universe. The hegemony had explored space for millions of years. They had met hundreds of different species, studied countless technologies, and mapped most of the galaxy. They thought they knew everything there was to know about space travel and alien technology. This ship proved they knew nothing. "Admiral," Yethmore called out urgently, "the ship is moving." On the screen, the dark vessel began to turn slowly. It moved without any visible propulsion, gliding through space as if the laws of physics didn't apply to it. "Where is it going?" Zexathara asked. It's heading toward the Kepler system," Dr. Kethlai announced after checking her instruments. The Kepler system was home to 12 billion people across 4 planets. It was one of the most important systems in the hegemony, a center of trade and culture. "Send an immediate warning to Kepler Command," Zexathara ordered. "Tell them something unknown is approaching their system." "Admiral, the communications," officer said hesitantly. What should I tell them it is? Zexathara stared at the screen where the mysterious ship was slowly fading from view, becoming invisible again. Tell them we don't know. Tell them to prepare for anything. As the ship disappeared completely, leaving no trace it had ever been there, Zexathara felt a deep fear settle in her chest. In her long career, she had faced many enemies, pirates, rebels, even ancient automated defense systems left behind by dead civilizations. But she had always understood what she was fighting. This was different. This was something beyond her understanding, beyond the understanding of her entire civilization. And it was heading toward one of their most important worlds. Dr. Kethlai, she said quietly, I want you to search our entire database. Look for any mention of ships like this in our history, in our mythology, in any record we have. What am I looking for specifically? Anything. Stories, legends, ancient texts. Someone, somewhere, must have seen something like this before. As her crew worked frantically to understand what they had witnessed, Zexathara continued to stare at the empty space where the ship had been. She had a terrible feeling that this was just the beginning. Whatever that ship was, wherever it came from, she was certain they hadn't seen the last of it, and deep in her heart, she feared that when it returned, it would bring consequences none of them were prepared for. The alarms continued to blare throughout, Sentinel Prime as the crew struggled to make sense of what they had seen. But the space where the impossible ship had appeared remained empty, offering no answers to their desperate questions. In the distance, traveling faster than should have been possible toward the Kepler system, the mysterious vessel continued its journey. It moved through space like a ghost, unseen and undetected, carrying secrets that would soon shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. Zexathara knew that everything had changed. The universe was no longer the safe, predictable place they thought it was. Something new had entered their reality, something that played by different rules, and she had no idea how to fight something that shouldn't exist. 3 days had passed since the first sighting, and the mysterious ship had appeared in 7 different star systems. Each time it followed the same terrifying pattern. It would materialize near populated worlds, conduct what looked like deep, scanning operations, then vanish completely before any response could reach it. Commander Velthos paced back and forth in the war room of the Hegemony's Central Command. His scaled hide was pale with stress as he studied the holographic display showing the ship's appearances across the galaxy. It's getting faster, he announced to the assembled military leaders. The time between appearances is decreasing. First, it was 12 hours, then 8, now 6. Whatever it's doing, it's speeding up the process. General Corthan, leader of the Hegemony's most elite fleet, slammed her fist on the table. We can't just sit here watching. This thing is making fools of us. Every species in the galaxy is starting to panic. She was right. Reports were coming in from across hegemony space. Trade routes were being abandoned. Entire populations were fleeing to remote systems. The stock markets had crashed. Fear was spreading faster than any disease ever could. What do we know about its scanning operations? Velthos asked Dr. Kethlai, who had been studying the ship's behavior. The elderly scientist activated a new display. It appears to be conducting incredibly detailed scans of our defense systems, our technology, even our biological signatures. The scans are so deep, they can analyze individual genetic codes from orbit. Genetic codes? Velthos felt his blood run cold. Why would it need that information? I don't know. But it's not just scanning randomly. There's a pattern. It's mapping our entire civilization, layer by layer. Admiral Zexathara entered the room, her usually perfect uniform wrinkled from days without sleep. The situation is getting worse. The ship appeared in the Alpha Centauri system 2 hours ago. It scanned the entire system in 30 minutes, then disappeared. Our fastest response ships were still 3 hours away. How is it moving so fast? Asked General Corthan. Even our most advanced ships can't travel between systems in 6 hours. That's just it, Dr. Kethlai replied. We don't think it's traveling through normal space. Our analysis suggests it's using some form of dimensional folding or space-time manipulation. It's not moving from place to place, it's just choosing to exist in different locations. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If the ship could appear anywhere instantly, then nowhere in the galaxy was safe. There's something else, Dr. Kethlai continued reluctantly. I've been researching ancient records like Admiral Zexathara requested. I found something disturbing. She activated another display showing ancient stone tablets and metallic recordings. These are from civilizations that existed millions of years ago. Civilizations that are now extinct. They all mention the same thing. Ghost ships that appeared. Before their societies collapsed, Velthos studied the ancient symbols and translations. Are you saying this has happened before? Not just before, Commander. Many times. I've found references spanning back 50 million years. Different ships, but always the same pattern. They appear, they scan, they study, and then... She paused. Then what? Zexthera demanded. Then the civilizations vanish. Not destroyed, vanished. As if they never existed at all. The silence in the room was deafening. Finally, General Corthan spoke up. We need to destroy this thing before it can finish whatever it's doing. With what? Velthos asked bitterly. Our weapons can't target something that doesn't exist in normal space. We've tried everything. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, even gravity bombs. Nothing works if you can't hit your target. What about the void cannon? Admiral Zexathera suggested quietly. Everyone in the room turned to stare at her. The void cannon was the hegemony's most powerful and most dangerous weapon. It could tear holes in reality itself, destroying anything within a light-year radius, but it had never been used against a living target. The void cannon is a last resort, Velthos said carefully. Using it could destroy entire star systems, better than losing the entire galaxy, Corthan replied grimly. After hours of debate, the decision was made. The next time the mysterious ship appeared, they would use the void cannon. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it was their only chance. They didn't have to wait long. 6 hours later, the ship materialized in the Vega system. This time, the hegemony was ready. The void cannon was the size of a small moon, built into an asteroid in the outer rim of the galaxy. It drew power from an entire star, channeling that energy into a weapon that could unravel the fabric of space. Itself. Target locked, reported the weapon operator. Charging sequence initiated. The mysterious ship hung motionless in space near Vega 4, conducting its usual scanning operations. It seemed completely unaware of the massive weapon preparing to fire at it from 50 light-years away. Weapon charged and ready, the operator announced. Fire, Velthos commanded. The void cannon unleashed a beam of pure destruction across space. It moved faster than light, tearing through dimensions to reach its target instantly. Where it struck, reality itself would cease to exist. But as the beam reached the Vega system, something impossible happened. The mysterious ship simply wasn't there anymore. It had vanished exactly 1 microsecond before the weapon fired, as if it had known the attack was coming before the order was even given. The void cannon's beam struck Vega Orpheus' largest moon instead, completely erasing it from existence. The explosion was visible from 100 light-years away. How? Velthos whispered in disbelief. How did it know? Dr. Kethlai stared at her instruments in shock. The ship disappeared 0.3 seconds before you gave the fire command. It knew what you were going to do before you decided to do it. The implications were terrifying. The ship wasn't just technologically superior, it seemed to exist outside of time itself. It could see the future, or perhaps it existed in multiple timelines simultaneously. Sir, a communications officer called out urgently. We're receiving a transmission from the ship. Everyone froze. This was the first time the mysterious vessel had tried to communicate. Put it through, Velthos ordered. The main screen flickered, and a simple message appeared. Not in words, but in pure mathematical concepts that somehow translated directly into their minds. Coordinates: Sector 7742, System 12, 3rd planet. Come alone. Then the transmission ended and the ship disappeared from all their sensors once again. The room erupted in discussion, but Velthos held up a hand for silence. He studied the coordinates carefully. It was a remote system on the very Edge of the galaxy, far from any major civilizations. It's a trap, General Corthon declared. Probably, Veltos agreed. But it's also our first real chance to get answers. That ship just demonstrated it can predict our actions before we make them. If it wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. Admiral Zexathara stepped forward. I'll go. If this thing wants to talk, then we need to listen. The fate of the entire galaxy might depend on what it has to say. As the meeting broke up and preparations began for the dangerous journey to the edge of space, none of them realized they were about to discover something that would change their understanding of the universe forever. The mysterious ship had given them coordinates not to a trap, but to a revelation that would shake the very foundations of everything they believed about life, intelligence, and their place in the cosmos. Admiral Zexathara sat in the captain's chair of the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge as it traveled through hyperspace toward the coordinates the mysterious ship had provided. The journey to the edge of the galaxy would take 3 days, giving her time to study all the data they had collected. But the more she studied, the more frightened she became. Dr. Kethalai, she called to the science officer, show me the scanning pattern analysis again. The holographic display showed the ship's appearances across the galaxy. At first, it looked random, the ship appearing in different systems with no clear connection. But when they overlaid the data with population centers, trade routes, and military installations, a terrifying picture emerged. It's not random at all, Dr. Kethalai explained. The ship is systematically mapping every aspect of our civilization. First, it scanned our major population centers, learning about our biology and social structures. Then it moved to our industrial systems, studying our technology and manufacturing capabilities. Now it's focusing on our military installations and defense networks. It's learning how to defeat us, Zexathara said quietly. More than that, it's learning how to replace us. The ship's scans weren't just collecting information. They were incredibly detailed blueprints of everything that made their civilization work. The genetic codes, the technology, the social systems, even the way their minds processed information. It was as if something was planning to rebuild their entire civilization from scratch. There's something else, Dr. Kethalai continued, activating a new display. I've been analyzing the energy patterns from the ship's appearances. Look at this. The display showed complex mathematical formulas that hurt to look at directly. They described forces and dimensions that shouldn't exist. Mathematical concepts that seemed to break the laws of reality. The ship isn't just using advanced technology, she explained. It's using impossible technology. These equations suggest it's manipulating probability itself, existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. It's not just invisible to our sensors. It exists in a state of quantum uncertainty where it can be anywhere and nowhere at the same time. Zexathara rubbed her temples, feeling a headache forming. Are you telling me we're dealing with something that exists outside the laws of physics? I'm telling you we're dealing with something that makes the laws of physics optional. The implications were staggering. How do you fight an enemy that can choose which version of reality it wants to exist in? How do you defend against something that can see every possible future and choose the one where it wins? Admiral, called the navigation officer, we're approaching the target system. Zexathara looked at the main screen as they dropped out of hyperspace. The system was unremarkable, a single yellow star with several small planets orbiting it. Nothing special, nothing that would draw attention from the major powers of the galaxy. Scans show the third planet has a breathable atmosphere, reported the science officer. It's mostly water with several large land masses. And, Admiral, there are life signs. What kind of life signs? Primitive. The dominant species appears to be in an early technological phase. They've achieved basic spaceflight but nothing close to interstellar travel. Their most advanced computers are barely more sophisticated than our calculators. Zexathara frowned. Why had the mysterious ship led them to a world full of primitives? What could creatures who had barely learned to leave their own planet possibly have to do with a threat to the entire galaxy? Take us into orbit, she ordered. Passive scans only. I don't want to frighten the natives. As they approached the small blue-green world, more details became clear. The planet was beautiful, but violent, Massive storms raged across its surface. Volcanic activity was common, and the weather patterns were chaotic and unpredictable. It was the kind of world that would forge tough, adaptable species. The natives call themselves humans, reported Dr. Kethlai after analyzing their communications. And they call their world Earth. What are they like? Fascinating. They're remarkably diverse for a single species. Multiple skin colors, different body types, various cultural groups. They seem to thrive on conflict and competition, but they also cooperate in ways that don't make logical sense. On the main screen, images of the human civilization appeared. Cities that were chaotic but functional. Technology that was primitive but innovative. Art and music that was emotional rather than logical. They're so random, observed Lieutenant Yethmore. Their cities have no clear planning, their governments are inefficient, and their technology develops in strange directions. How have they survived? Dr. Kethlai was quiet for a moment, studying the data. I think that's exactly how they've survived. Look at this. Their history is full of disasters, wars, and catastrophes that should have destroyed them. But every time they adapt and rebuild, they don't follow logical patterns because logic isn't their strength. Then what is their strength? Zexthara asked. Before Dr. Kethlai could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Admiral, called the tactical officer, we're being scanned by something on the planet's surface. Impossible, their technology can't reach us in orbit. The scans are coming from 3 different locations. They're using some kind of linked detection network. And Admiral, they've just launched 3 spacecraft toward our position. On the screen, 3 primitive human vessels rose from the planet's surface. They were crude things powered by chemical rockets and nuclear reactors. Compared to the Harmony's Edge, they were barely more advanced than stones thrown by children. They can't possibly detect us, Zexthara said confidently. Our cloaking system is based on technology thousands of years ahead of theirs. But as they watched, the 3 human ships changed course to intercept them directly. Not only had they detected the cloaked vessel, they were tracking it perfectly. How are they doing this? Zexthara demanded. Dr. Kethlai was frantically analyzing the human ship's sensor arrays. Admiral, this is impossible. Their equipment shouldn't be able to penetrate our cloak, but somehow they're tracking us with perfect accuracy. The lead human ship opened a communication channel. A voice spoke in accented Galactic Standard, though it was clear the speaker was using a translation device. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You are in violation of our space. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. Zexthara stared at the screen in shock. Not only had these primitives detected her ship, they were demanding she identify herself. It would have been amusing if it wasn't so impossible. How did they learn Galactic Standard? She asked. They didn't, Dr. Kethlai replied, studying the communication. They're using a translation matrix based on mathematical constants. It's crude but effective. Admiral, these humans may be primitive, but they're not stupid. The 3 human ships had now formed a perfect intercept pattern around the Harmony's Edge. Despite their primitive technology, their tactics were flawless. Captain Chen, Zexthara finally responded, I am Admiral Zexthara of the Galactic Hegemony. We mean no harm to your world. We're investigating a threat to the galaxy. There was a pause, then the human captain replied, Admiral, your ship has technology that shouldn't exist. We've been tracking energy signatures like yours for the past week. If you're investigating a threat, then we need to talk. Zexthara felt the universe shift around her. These primitive humans had been tracking the mysterious ship. They had detected what the most advanced sensors in the galaxy could not see. Dr. Kethlai, she said quietly, I think we're about to learn something very important about these humans. What do you mean? Zexthara stared at the 3 small ships that had somehow outsmarted technology thousands of years ahead of their own. I think we're about to learn why that mysterious ship led us here. Admiral Zexthara materialized on the bridge of the human spacecraft, defiance in a shimmer of blue light. The teleportation technology of the hegemony was far beyond anything these humans possessed, yet they showed no fear or amazement. They simply nodded politely and gestured for her to follow them. The inside of the human ship was cramped and cluttered compared to the clean, efficient designs of hegemony vessels. Cables ran along the walls in seemingly random patterns. Equipment was bolted down in odd places. Everything looked like it had been built by someone who cared more about function than form. "Welcome aboard, Admiral," said Captain Sarah Chen, a small human female with dark hair and intelligent eyes. "I apologize for the cramped conditions. We built these ships quickly when we detected the first anomalous readings." "You detected the mysterious ship?" Zexathera asked in surprise. "We've been tracking it for 6 days," replied Dr. James Park, the ship's science officer. "It appeared in our solar system briefly, conducted some kind of scan, then disappeared. But we got enough readings to start looking for it." Zexathera felt confused. "But that's impossible. Our most advanced sensors can barely detect it, and your technology is—" She paused, not wanting to insult them. "Primitive?" Captain Chen smiled. "Yes, compared to yours it is. But sometimes primitive has advantages." She led Zexathera to the ship's science station, where a bewildering array of instruments and displays showed data that made no sense to the Admiral's trained eye. "Dr. Park, would you explain how we detected the impossible ship?" The human scientist activated several displays. "Admiral, your people rely heavily on advanced sensors and quantum detection arrays, correct?" "Yes, of course. How else would you detect objects in space?" "Well, we use those too, but we also use something your people seem to have forgotten: pattern recognition and intuition." Zexathera's translator struggled with the word intuition. It came across as something like feeling knowledge or gut thinking. Dr. Park continued, "When our instruments detected gravitational anomalies that didn't match any known phenomena, we didn't just analyze the data mathematically. We looked at it from every angle we could think of. We asked questions like, if something wanted to hide from advanced sensors, how would it do that? What would be the holes in such a system?" "And you found holes in technology thousands of years ahead of your own?" Zexathera asked skeptically. "We found patterns," Captain Chen corrected. "Your advanced sensors look for specific energy signatures, quantum fluctuations, and electromagnetic emissions. But this ship produces none of those. So we looked for what it doesn't produce: areas where background radiation is slightly decreased, where quantum foam is mysteriously calm, where space-time is just a little too perfect." Dr. Park activated another display. "We also noticed that your ship's appearances weren't truly random. There were micro-patterns in the timing, slight preferences in positioning. Once we mapped those patterns, we could predict where it might appear next." Zexathera studied the human calculations. They were crude compared to hegemony mathematics, but they worked. Somehow, these primitive beings had succeeded where the most advanced minds in the galaxy had failed. "But how did you track my ship?" she asked. "Our cloaking technology should be completely invisible to your sensors." Captain Chen and Dr. Park exchanged a look. "Admiral, can I ask you a question? When your people developed cloaking technology, what did you design it to hide from?" "Advanced. Sensor arrays, quantum scanners, gravitational detectors." Zexathera paused as understanding dawned. "Exactly. You designed it to fool advanced technology. But our sensors aren't advanced. They're just different." Dr. Park pointed to a jury-rigged contraption that looked like it was held together with wire and prayer. "This beauty detects minute changes in stellar background radiation. Your cloak doesn't hide that because your designers never thought anyone would still be using such primitive detection methods." Zexathera felt a strange emotion she hadn't experienced in decades: humility. These humans had outsmarted the greatest technological civilization in the galaxy, using creativity and unconventional thinking. "There's something else," Captain Chen said seriously. "We think we know what the mysterious ship is looking for." "What?" "Us. Specifically proof that we still think the way our ancestors did." Before Zexathera could ask what that meant, space around them suddenly warped and twisted. The mysterious ship materialized directly in front of them, close enough that they could see details of its impossible construction. But this time, it didn't disappear. Instead, it opened a communication channel. "Greetings, Admiral Zexathera of the Hegemony. Greetings, Captain Chen of Earth. I am Captain Marcus Rivera of the temporal research vessel Paradox. I believe it's time we talked. The voice spoke perfect galactic standard, but with a human accent that was unmistakable. You're human, Captain Chen breathed. Yes, the voice replied. I'm human, but not from your time. I'm from your future. About 50,000 years in the future. Zexthara felt her legs go weak. A human ship from the future. That explained the impossible technology, the ability to predict their actions, the systematic scanning of galactic civilization. Why? She asked simply. Because we needed to know if the test was still valid, Captain Rivera replied. Admiral, your hegemony represents the pinnacle of logical technological advancement. You've built a perfect civilization based on efficiency, logic, and technological superiority. And you're about to go extinct. The words hit like a physical blow. Extinct? How? The same way every other advanced civilization in this galaxy has gone extinct over the past 50 million years. You've become too dependent on your technology. You've forgotten how to think creatively, how to solve problems that don't have logical solutions, how to see possibilities that exist outside your established parameters. Captain Chen leaned forward. And humans? Humans inherited the galaxy, Captain. Not through superior technology, but through something far more valuable, the ability to think outside the box, to see solutions where none should exist, to believe that impossible problems have possible answers. The communications channel shifted and suddenly they could see Captain Rivera. He looked human, but there was something ancient in his eyes, something that spoke of eons of experience. Every few million years the galaxy faces what we call the Great Filter, he continued. It's not a war or a disaster, it's a test. A test of whether a civilization has grown so rigid in its thinking that it can no longer adapt to truly novel problems. The hegemony, for all its technological prowess, has failed this test. But current humanity hasn't been tested yet, Dr. Park said, understanding dawning in his voice. Exactly. I came back to see if 21st century humans still possessed the qualities that allowed us to inherit the stars, the ability to detect what shouldn't be detectable, to solve what shouldn't be solvable, to think in ways that pure logic would reject. Captain Rivera's image smiled. And you passed. You detected my ship using methods that any logical being would consider primitive and useless. You succeeded because you didn't limit yourselves to proper thinking. Zexthara felt a strange mixture of despair and hope. What happens now? Now, Admiral, you have a choice. Your people can learn from humanity's approach, embrace creativity over pure logic, intuition alongside analysis, possibility thinking instead of rigid parameters. Or you can continue on your current path and join the countless other advanced civilizations that are now nothing but archaeological curiosities. The future humans' words hung in the air like a challenge. The fate of the galaxy's greatest civilization suddenly depended on their willingness to learn from the galaxy's most primitive spacefaring species. We're offering you a partnership, Captain Rivera continued. Learn from each other. Combine your technological advancement with human creativity. Together, we can explore what lies beyond this galaxy, face challenges that neither of our species could handle alone. Zexthara looked at Captain Chen, seeing her own thoughts reflected in the human's eyes. The universe had just become infinitely larger and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. But it had also become infinitely more full of possibilities. The meeting chamber aboard the future human ship Paradox defied all logic. The room seemed to exist in more dimensions than should be possible, with surfaces that curved in directions that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Zexthara, Captain Chen and Dr. Park sat across from Captain Marcus Rivera, whose presence filled the impossible space with quiet authority. I know you have questions, Rivera began, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. Let me start with the truth about the galaxy, about humanity, and about why your civilization is in danger. He gestured, and the air around them filled with holographic images showing the sweep of galactic history over millions of years. This galaxy has seen the rise and fall of thousands of advanced civilizations, he explained. Each one reached incredible heights of technology and knowledge. Each one believed they understood the universe completely. And each one vanished when they encountered problems that couldn't be solved through technological superiority alone. The images showed magnificent cities spanning entire worlds, ships that could reshape stars, civilizations that seemed capable of anything. Then one by one they simply ended. They didn't die in wars, Rivera continued. They didn't face natural disasters or alien invasions. They faced something far more insidious: stagnation. They became so dependent on their advanced systems that they lost the ability to think creatively when those systems failed them. Admiral Zexathara leaned forward. But the hegemony has survived for millions of years. We've faced countless challenges. Yes, but always using the same methods, always relying on technological solutions to technological problems. What happens when you face a problem that can't be solved by building better sensors or more powerful weapons? Dr. Park spoke up. That's what happened with your ship. We detected it not because we had better technology, but because we approached the problem differently. Exactly. Rivera smiled approvingly. Humans evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill them. Earth is a violent, chaotic planet where logic and efficiency aren't enough to survive. You had to develop something the other species lost long ago: adaptability. Captain Chen frowned. But how did humanity end up inheriting the galaxy? We're barely a spacefaring species. Rivera's expression grew serious. Because 50,000 years ago, humanity faced the same test every advanced civilization eventually faces. We call it the Great Filter, but it's not what most species think. It's not about technology or military power. It's about mental flexibility. The holographic display changed, showing a cosmic phenomenon that made Zexathara's mind reel. It looked like reality itself was breaking down, with entire star systems simply ceasing to exist. Every few million years, something emerges from beyond our galaxy. We don't know what it is or where it comes from. We call it the paradigm storm. It's not a weapon or a natural disaster. It's a force that makes the fundamental laws of physics optional. Optional? Zexathara whispered. Imagine trying to fly a spacecraft when gravity randomly stops working. Imagine trying to generate power when the relationship between matter and energy keeps changing. Imagine trying to communicate when cause and effect become negotiable. Dr. Park's eyes widened. You'd need to be able to think outside the normal rules of physics. More than that. You'd need to be comfortable with uncertainty, capable of finding solutions that shouldn't work, able to adapt faster than reality can change around you. Every logical civilization we've encountered tries to understand the storm, to predict it, to build defenses against it. They all fail because they're trying to apply fixed rules to something that has no rules. Rivera stood and walked to what might have been a window, though it seemed to show multiple views of space simultaneously. Humanity succeeded because we didn't try to understand the storm. We just rolled with it. When gravity stopped working, we found other ways to move. When energy conservation became unreliable, we learned to work with whatever power we could get. When cause and effect got scrambled, we made decisions based on intuition and hope. That's insane, Zexathara protested. Yes, it is, and that's why it worked. Rivera turned back to them with a grin that looked very human despite the impossible age in his eyes. Sanity is just another set of rules, Admiral. And rules are exactly what don't work when facing the impossible. Captain Chen was quiet for a long moment. How long do we have? The storm is beginning to build again. Our sensors detect the early stages starting to form in the void between galaxies. Best estimate is 500 years before it reaches us. 500 years to prepare the entire galaxy for something that breaks the laws of physics, Dr. Park said faintly. 500 years to teach billions of logical beings how to think illogically when necessary, Rivera corrected. It's not about abandoning science or technology. It's about being willing to throw out everything you know when what you know stops working. Admiral Zexathara felt overwhelmed. Her entire worldview was crumbling around her. Everything the hegemony had built, everything they believed in, was apparently useless against this coming threat. Why should we believe you? She asked desperately. How do we know this isn't some elaborate deception? Rivera nodded, understanding. Because I'm going to show you something that will prove everything I've said. He activated a control, and suddenly they were no longer aboard his ship. They stood on the surface of a dead world under alien stars. Around them stretched the ruins of a vast city, its architecture beautiful but utterly foreign, and everywhere carved into every surface were the same symbols, equations and diagrams that hurt to look at. This is Kepler 442b, Rivera explained, home to the Eternal Empire, the most advanced civilization this galaxy had ever seen. They ruled for 10 million years. Their technology made the current hegemony look like Stone Age primitives. Zexthara studied the alien equations. Even with her advanced education, she could barely comprehend their complexity. When the last paradigm storm hit, they had 5,000 years to prepare. They built reality stabilizers, paradigm anchors, causal locks, technologies beyond anything that exists today. They were absolutely certain they could weather the storm through superior engineering. Rivera gestured to the empty ruins around them. This is all that's left. The storm didn't destroy them. It simply made their solutions irrelevant. Every brilliant piece of technology they built was based on assumptions about how reality works. When those assumptions became false, their civilization collapsed in a matter of days. They found themselves back aboard the Paradox, but the images of the dead world remained burned in their minds. Humanity survived because we never assumed reality had to make sense, Rivera continued. We built redundant systems, but more importantly, we built redundant ways of thinking. We kept artists and poets alongside scientists and engineers. We valued creativity as much as logic. We prepared for problems we couldn't even imagine. And now you want us to do the same, Captain Chen said. I want you to have the choice. The future isn't fixed, Captain. I come from one possible timeline where humanity faced the storm alone and barely survived. But together, combining hegemony technology with human adaptability, we might do more than just survive. We might find a way to end the cycle forever. Admiral Zexthara stood slowly, feeling the weight of her species' future on her shoulders. What do you need from us? Trust, cooperation, and most importantly, the willingness to learn that sometimes the best solution is the one that makes no sense at all. Rivera smiled. Think you can handle that, Admiral? For the first time in her long career, Zexthara found herself hoping that her logical, efficient, technologically superior civilization could learn to be a little more human. I'll take your offer back to the Hegemony Council, she said finally. But I should warn you, asking a civilization built on logic to embrace illogic won't be easy. The best solutions never are, Rivera replied. That's what makes them human, as they prepared to return to their respective ships. Zexthara realized that everything had changed. The universe was no longer a place where superior technology guaranteed survival. It was a place where adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to think impossible thoughts were the keys to the future. And for the first time in millions of years, the galaxy's most primitive spacefaring species was about to teach its most advanced civilizations how to survive.